Hey, everybody. Welcome to Badge Banter, where we feature some of our awesome partners and let them share some amazing stories about how the identification serves as a foundation for an organization's overall security efforts. I'm Lindsay Martinez from Badge Pass, and today I'm joined by Chris Ciccone from Brady People ID. Thank you so much for being here, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So before we dive into your story today, why don't you take a minute and tell us a little bit about Brady People ID and what all it is that you do? Because I know it's a lot of stuff.
I think we lose track of it sometimes. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. So, Brady People ID, we are a division of Brady, and we are a manufacturer of anything related to an identification product. So, anything from cards to printers to the ID accessories, we manufacture almost everything ourselves. So, if you're looking for a wider range of products that's available domestically as well, we have those. So, that's kind of the bread and butter of what we do.
All right, so identification's at the core of what you do. So this should be easy for you, but can you go ahead and share with us a story of a cool customer account that's utilizing badges along with maybe some other types of ID to identify like multiple types of people within the organization?
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of really unique requests. Sometimes it can vary the gamut for the type of ID accessory of the card, but we actually have a hospital system that was using multiple of our products, and they had a unique situation where they were trying to reduce their risk on their medication dispensing. So they were having some issues where it's kind of critical, and this is something they're measured on. They're going around giving the medications. The last thing you want is to give the wrong medication to somebody because it could be deadly. And so they noticed there was errors in what when they were dispensing the product, and they were trying to get that down. Now, to come to find out, what happened was a lot of times these people are going around the floor visiting patients and they're getting distracted. And that's usually when somebody starts talking to you and you're like, okay, what was I doing? You don't want that to happen there. So they needed some way to identify that this person cannot be spoken to or distracted or kind of pulled away from the job that they're doing. So they wanted something that could visually represent. That's what we do, visual security, visual identification, but they wanted it so glaring that down the hall you would even know I can't even talk to that person. So what we came up with was an idea that say, hey, we could actually put LEDs in the lanyard, so it's pretty visually stunning. They can look at it and immediately know like, oh, this person is in the middle of their task and they cannot be bothered. And that's actually what we did. And so I can actually show an example here. This is our LED. This is the first iteration that we had. It's branded Brady, as you can see. But as the person's wearing it, you can kind of see like they know anybody who's coming up to them, it's lighted, and they say, all right, I probably shouldn't talk to that person right now. And guess what? Their rates of medication of being dispensed incorrectly went down drastically. So that was, it worked very well. We've actually gone through a few iterations now. They've asked for, hey, can you make it a little brighter? So we've added more LEDs to it. Can you make it last longer? So we've added larger batteries and looking to do like a rechargeable one at some point. But for this hospital system, that's just one core component of one department. Throughout the entire hospital, they're using a lot of different accessories. So for employees, they have the B reel, so it's always front facing, always pops back, using the badge buddies for role recognition. But even the patients are using the laser wristbands, the thermal wristbands are on the patient. So every part of the hospital that has identification, we're touching it in some way somehow.
That's so cool. You bring up two things that I want to touch on. Number one, I feel like we need light up lanyards now at Badge when you're in the middle of something important and you don't want to be interrupted. Like now I feel like everyone needs this. But that is a very cool use case for sure.
Make them in green. You let me know.
There we go. And number two, we've talked with previous guests about the importance of like the employee badge in a healthcare setting for security purposes, like knowing people belong there. But you touched on an interesting thing that hasn't come up in any of these sessions yet. And that's like not just employee badges for identifying those people, but also like the importance of wristbands for identification and properly identifying like this patient is who they say they are. I know I have the correct patient and I know I'm dispensing the correct medication based on that patient ID. So I think that's a great point. to kind of tie into that story, since we haven't talked about wristbands at all, I mean, I think that that's a very valid form of identification. We, a few years ago, actually worked with a juvenile detention center, which is a very random type of customer to utilize IDs. And they actually wanted to identify their juveniles, but didn't want them to have like a physical card, didn't want them to have lanyards or anything like that. And so they thought, what was a good way to identify, hey, let's just say this juvenile while they're here, and give them something that was scannable and therefore trackable. And so they actually issued IDs for those people on wristbands. And then all of their guards in the facility had employee IDs. And as they moved juveniles throughout the facility, like took them outside or whatever it was, for any time that they were allocated, they needed to track, hey, we let these people outside for this much amount of time that day, and had all the tracking to go along with that. So they'd scan both the guard's ID as well as the juvenile's ID, and then the location that they were moved to throughout the facility. And so that let them identify and track people very, very easily. And I think that's cool. I mean, I just don't think that we think about wristbands necessarily as a means of identification all the time, but it's a great use case for sure.
No, and that's the trying to understand what the customer actually needs and the use case of that. It's important, and a lot of times we focus on kind of what we think is right, but asking those questions and figuring out, okay, well, how are you using the product? Maybe you can come up with different ways to identify somebody.
Nothing better than a creative solution to help a customer for sure. So I think that segues as well. I know not everybody typically describes ID accessories as very sexy, but we're going to do that today. And there's some very cool custom ID accessories and items that y'all have created for a variety of applications. I mean, you just showed us one with the light up lanyard, which I think is really cool. But would you mind sharing some of your other favorite ID accessories with us?
Sure, that's what I love to do. So, I think one of the things that we see is we offer printing on badge holders, and they say, hey, well, why would I want to print on a badge holder if I need to see my badge? But you don't always have an application where you need to have it for an employee badge. We see it a lot in retail too. So I'm not sure if what a lot of people are aware of that we can actually do full imprinting on a badge holder. And what that does is it makes it look really nice and it pops. So on a full fill, especially if you're dealing with marketing colors, it really makes it pop and stand out, especially in a retail space where you're trying to brand your image on a consistent basis. Um, on that, we also do a lot of pride type products now. So HR departments, especially if they have a special project within, their organization, they look like, oh, what can I do that specifically? And putting a nice dome reel on it really makes it pop, really protects it as well. And so outside of just the badge reels and the badge holders, we also look at kind of what can we do differently to make something stand out in an organization. So there's some companies out there that actually will give you color badges depending on how long you've been with the company. So 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And so sometimes what we do is we'll take like a standard product and then we'll take it. So, hey, guess what? How can you do role recognition, not just on the lanyard itself, but maybe doing some custom plastics for the breakaway or the badge reel, so as they're walking down the halls, they can, again, make it sexy to wear instead of having to wear a badge all day. So
Absolutely. That's very cool. One of my favorite new products that Brady just came out with that you didn't touch on, and I'm going to mess up the name of it so you can tell me what it is, but the ability to do like customized lanyards that have custom text fields on it or custom images, I think is so cool. Hypothetically, I mean, normally when you order custom lanyards, you order them like with your custom logo or whatever, and then everyone has the same one, or you just touched on, hey, you could have different colors.
Yep.
But the ability to do like smaller runs of, let's say, badge fun at everybody's department printed on their lanyard. Like that would be a cool way to have something that was different and not just the logo. That was a custom piece. And the new lanyard, you're going to have to fill in what the name of it is, but that y'all just came out with lets people do that and have customizations and not have to necessarily have like a large minimum order quantity to get that at a reasonable price point. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah, those are our true color lanyards, which I have in my hand right now.
There you go.
And it's what's beautiful about it too is you get gradient printing. So not only variable data, now within the imprint, you get a lot of, you can add color. And what we're seeing a lot with lanyards, it just seems to be trending more and more, is as logos get more complex and more vibrant, they want to be able to demonstrate that on the print, but also getting wider. Lanyards seem to be getting wider and wider. At some point, we're going to be wearing like trophy or, trophy.
Maybe you will be. I probably won't be still.
That's all right. I'll make you a custom green one of that too.
There you go. Nice. Well, that's awesome. See, I mean, like I said, ID accessories are cool. Nobody knew it until now. So thank you for sharing that with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for letting me talk all about my important products.
Absolutely. Well, it was so good to have you here today, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us. And we hope you'll join us next time as we take you beyond the badge.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lindsay.